This is Doofy McButterscotch, and we've returned to Sylvester Stallone. We pretty much said everything that needs to be said about the specialist, so moving on. Daylight. Well, there's not a lot of light getting into the caverns for which this action movie is set, and they need a little bit of daylight in there, so they've sent Sylvester Stallone to help the problem and fix everything. I watched this movie a long time ago, so I am not going to remember the plot very good. So, there you go. Rocky 5. Lots of Rocky and Rambo films in Sylvester Stallone's list. Rocky 5. Well, this one is kind of like the nostalgic Rocky's Returned movie, because it took a long time between Rocky 4, 1985, to... it was a 5-year break. There'd never been that long of a break between Rocky films, so it was kind of like Rocky's back. Even though Rocky 6 is more like Rocky's back. But anyway, Rocky 5. Rocky trains some guy named Tommy Gunn, and he trains him, makes him into a real good boxer, and then he turns into a prick and turns on Rocky. And then they get in a fight, and Rocky kicks the shit out of him and shows him who's boss, and then everyone forgets about him. So it's one of those ones. So you get to see Rocky train someone, and then there you go. So it's pretty good to see the rookie get his ass kicked. Anyway, Judge Dredd. This was one of the final movies I watched of Sylvester Stallone. It took me a while to get to this one, but I thought it was pretty good. I have not watched the new Judge Dredd, and I personally did not think they needed to remake it. I thought the first one was pretty good on its own. It had a lot of cool characters, special effects, and you know, I thought the whole theme was pretty good. I'm sure there was a really good villain. I can't remember it because I've watched so many fucking movies. It's hard to do that, but I thought it was pretty good. It didn't need to be remade. Kind of like RoboCop. They didn't need to remake that. I've never watched any RoboCop movies. Can you believe that? I've watched so many goddamn movies that I've never ever watched a RoboCop movie. That's ridiculous. Anyway, Sylvester Stallone. I prefer Arnold over Sylvester. But Sylvester's okay. I like him as an action star. He's got the deep accent. But, yeah, he's okay. But not as good as Arnold. Ben Stiller. There's Something About Mary. This is a different kind of film. We go from Sylvester Stallone to this one. Well, this is one of the very first, disgusting for its time comedy, because a lot of comedies, like back in the day, the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s, they didn't really have gross out comedies. I mean, occasionally something in the 70s would be a little iffish, but they didn't really get into the gross shit until the 90s. Yep, it was made in the 90s, just needed to check. But yeah, it's Ben Stiller is kind of like the loser guy who's trying to get the girl, who's Cameron Diaz, and he has a scene where he zips up his pants and accidentally catches his nutsack in there, and that scene is pretty famous, and everyone in town goes to take a look at it, and yeah, the rest of the film is pretty good too. And he eventually gets married. But it's a pretty good comedy. Pretty good. Meet the Parents, we did that one. Cable Guy, we did that one. Royal Tenenbaums, we did that one too. Zoolander. Well, this one's got Will Ferrell as the bad guy. He doesn't usually play the bad guy, but Ben Stiller is, of course, the main guy here, and he is a fashion legend who has the same, basically he's got a calendar where he does the exact same look in every single picture. They've got a different color in the background, but it's the same look. And yeah, it basically pokes fun at fashion, which deserves to get the shit kicked out of it, because fashion sense is stupid. And This one just makes fun of it. I'm sure there's a lot of fashion moguls out there that are like, oh, it's not really like that, but who gives a shit about them? They're a bunch of a-holes. This film is pretty good, and Will Ferrell plays a really good villainous role. He's good. This one's a good comedy. You should check it out if you want a giggle or two. Keeping the Faith, however, is precisely the opposite. It is this shitty comedy. Real shitty comedy. You've got Ben Stiller, and you got, let's see who are. You got some other dude and some chick, and they're both fighting to get this one chick, and Ben Stiller is a rabbi, as you can tell by his title there. It's dumb. It is a dumb movie, and it is hard to get through because it's supposed to be a comedy, but it's so boring. I mean, it doesn't have that great of jokes. It's just dumb. It's not a horrible movie. It's just dumb. It begs the question, why am I watching this? And my reason, because I wanted to check it off so I could complete Ben Stiller's list. That was my excuse. There's not any other reason why I would watch the movie. None. Mystery Men. I watched this one a long time ago when I was a little kid, and I thought it was pretty good. And it's one of the first, like, superhero-ish movies about people who aren't so super. You got Hank Azaria, who does shit with spoons. You got William H. Macy, who's a fireman. And you got Ben Stiller, who's Mr. Furious, who gets really, really, really pissed off and doesn't really have any powers. He just gets really pissed off. And then you got some Indian guy who can make women's clothes shrink. You got a guy who can fart so loud it pushes things over. And you got a dude that can turn invisible only when you're not looking at him. So it's hilarious, so to say. It's pretty good. It makes fun of superheroes, and since superheroes don't really exist, it's fun because it pokes fun at all the Marvel and DC and Superman stuff. It's good. If you're a superhero fan, you will get a kick out of this movie. You will. It's good. Empire of the Sun. This is by no means a comedy and does not try to be. It is all about Asia and stuff, and Christian Bale when he was a little kid before he turned into a little shithead. And it's hard to like him because you know what he turns into when he gets older. So it's hard to sympathize with him as a little kid in a war-torn country trying to find his parents again. It's hard to relate with him because you know how much of an asshole he is today. So when you're watching it, you're constantly thinking, I hope he dies. I hope he gets shot. I don't give a shit about him. He's a little kid, but I know he turns into a prick, so I don't fucking care. But if you watch this movie before Christian Bale turned into a huge asshole, this movie was actually pretty good. But it's hard to not make fun of it when you know what Christian Bale turns into. And Ben Stiller's in it, of course. He plays Dainty, a soldier whose name is Dainty. And wait, we did this movie before, didn't we? Fuck. We already did it with John Malkovich. Son of a bitch. Anyway, ran out of time. Bummer. See you later.